You open your laptop. You answer emails, join calls, type messages, maybe even take a short break. Somewhere in the background, an AI system may be watching patterns in your activity. How quickly you respond, how long you remain inactive, how many meetings you attend, how often you communicate, and, in some systems, even how your written communication is interpreted. Those signals can be turned into metrics, predictions, or scores. You may never see them. You may not know exactly what is being measured, and if something about that score affects your career, you may not know how to challenge it. Welcome to Ethics Engine. Today, we're looking at the quiet rise of workplace AI monitoring, and what happens when the person being evaluated doesn't get to see the evaluation. Workplace monitoring isn't new. Companies have tracked hours, attendance, sales numbers, call times, and productivity for decades. What's changed is the scale, and the ability to analyze behavior automatically. Modern workplace software can collect enormous amounts of information about how employees interact with digital systems. For someone working at a computer, that might include login times, application usage, keyboard or mouse activity, meeting participation, emails, messages, or documents accessed. In customer service environments, systems can analyze call duration, response times, or conversation transcripts. Some tools measure what they describe as productivity or work patterns. Others attempt something more ambitious, predicting performance. Instead of simply saying, "You answered 42 customer requests today," a system might try to estimate, "This employee is likely to be high-performing." That sounds useful, but prediction requires assumptions. The system has to decide which behaviors are associated with good performance, and those assumptions can become surprisingly consequential. Imagine 2 employees. One responds to messages immediately. The other takes longer because they spend more time thinking before responding. A simplistic system might interpret the first employee as highly responsive, but it could interpret the second as disengaged. Both employees may be doing excellent work. The difference is simply how their work looks to a machine. This becomes even more complicated with communication analysis. AI systems can process text at enormous scale. They can classify messages, detect sentiment, identify topics, measure response patterns, and potentially flag communications that appear unusual or concerning. Again, the technology isn't necessarily malicious. A company might use it to identify burnout, improve workload distribution, or understand where teams are struggling. But there's a fundamental question: when does measurement become surveillance? And when does surveillance become judgment? Imagine knowing that everything you do at work might become data. You open Slack. You wonder whether your response time is being recorded. You join a meeting. You wonder whether participation is being measured. You take a 10-minute break. You wonder whether the system knows. You write an email, and before hitting send you think, how will this sound to the algorithm? That last question is where something subtle changes. You aren't just working anymore. You're managing how your work appears, and that can create a kind of constant low-level pressure. Not necessarily panic, something quieter. The feeling that someone, or something, is always watching. Psychologists have studied the effects of workplace surveillance, and research has associated intensive electronic monitoring with increased stress and reduced autonomy in some contexts. The reason is intuitive. People generally work differently when they believe they're being watched. They may avoid taking breaks, avoid experimenting, avoid asking questions, avoid sending messages that could be misinterpreted. They begin optimizing for the measurement, not necessarily for the work. And this creates a strange paradox. A company may introduce AI monitoring because it wants employees to be productive. But excessive monitoring can encourage people to perform productivity instead. Keep the cursor moving, reply quickly, stay visibly active, attend every meeting, look busy. Even when the most valuable thing you could do is sit quietly and think. Knowledge work is particularly difficult to measure this way. A programmer can spend 3 hours staring at a problem and then solve it in 10 minutes. A writer can delete 5 pages and discover the one paragraph that actually works. A manager can spend an hour having a difficult conversation that prevents a problem 6 months later. None of those activities necessarily look productive to an algorithm. And that's the danger of confusing activity with value. The first problem is transparency. Do employees know what data is being collected? Do they know what conclusions are being drawn from it? Do they know whether those conclusions affect promotions, bonuses, disciplinary action, or termination? Sometimes the answer may be unclear, and that creates an unusual imbalance. The company sees the worker. The worker doesn't necessarily see what the company sees. The second problem is bias. AI systems learn patterns from data. If the underlying data reflects biased assumptions about what a good employee looks like, the system can reproduce those assumptions. Consider remote workers. Someone who spends fewer hours visibly active online might actually be highly productive. Someone who writes fewer messages might be doing focused work. Someone who communicates differently because of culture, disability, language background, or personality could be interpreted differently by automated systems. The algorithm doesn't necessarily know why the behavior exists, it only sees the pattern. And then there's the third problem: contestation. Imagine being told, your performance score has fallen. You ask, why? And the answer is, the model detected a decline in productivity. You ask, which part is wrong? The response, the system considers multiple factors. Now you're facing a decision you cannot see and potentially cannot meaningfully challenge. This is where the power imbalance becomes important. A human manager can explain a decision. They can listen to context. They can change their mind. A model may produce a number that appears objective simply because it has a decimal point. But a score isn't automatically a fact. It's the output of a set of assumptions. And someone chose those assumptions. So, what should employees and employers be asking? First, what exactly is being collected? Not just productivity data. Which data, emails, messages, keyboard activity, meeting participation, location, voice? Second, what is the data being used for? Monitoring, training, performance reviews, promotion, discipline? Third, can employees see the conclusions? If an AI creates a profile or score about you, shouldn't you at least have the ability to understand what it says? Fourth, can you challenge it? There should be a meaningful human process for correcting errors, because algorithms make mistakes. And finally, is the monitoring proportionate? Just because technology makes something measurable doesn't mean it needs to be measured. A company might technically be able to analyze every message an employee sends. That doesn't automatically make doing so ethical. There is a difference between managing work and managing a person's every observable behavior. Human oversight matters here. An AI score should not become a secret authority that determines someone's future, while the person being judged has no meaningful way to respond. Regulators are increasingly paying attention to workplace AI for exactly these reasons. The European Union's AI Act, for example, classifies certain AI systems used in employment and worker management as high risk, and introduces requirements around risk management, data governance, documentation, transparency, and human oversight. The broader principle is worth remembering. The more power a system has over your livelihood, the more transparent and accountable it should be. There's something uncomfortable about an invisible score. Not because every workplace AI system is necessarily harmful. Some can genuinely help organizations identify problems. They can reduce administrative work. They can help distribute workloads. They can give managers information they would otherwise miss. The problem begins when measurement quietly becomes control. When workers change their behavior because they don't know what the system is looking for. When people stop taking reasonable breaks because inactivity might look bad. When employees avoid difficult conversations because a sentiment model might misunderstand them. When the number becomes more important than the human reality behind it. And perhaps the most important question is the simplest one. If an AI is making judgments about you at work, shouldn't you have the right to know what it sees? A workplace doesn't stop being human just because the monitoring happens through software. Employees are still people. They need room to think, to make mistakes, to take breaks, to communicate imperfectly, and sometimes to simply be human without wondering whether every small behavior is being converted into a permanent data point. So, here's today's question. Should companies be required to show employees any AI-generated performance or behavior scores about them? Yes or no? And why? Tell us in the comments. Because this isn't only a question about artificial intelligence. It's a question about power. Who gets to measure whom? Who gets to see the results? And who gets the final say when the machine gets it wrong? If the idea of an invisible score watching your workday bothers you, hit subscribe. We keep examining who holds the power.